Good afternoon. I presume you are fine this afternoon. Tired. I was going to do what Pastor did to to experience the cold, but I fear it most. I'll try to do my best to be quick because I want to see if we can save some minutes onto ourselves. How many of us have already read this book, Nigeria and the Leadership Question? You have it and you've already read it. Okay, so only one person. But another also told me she had read it. Where is Diva? Oh, the other side. Okay. To specifically to those who are in governance, this is a book that you must have. I don't know how many of us here are in the sphere of governance, are interested in making sure that issues of governance in our country are streamlined. Then this is a book that I recommend for not only Nigeria, but for the whole of Africa. And I will be highlighting why. But also, too, that even if you are not in governance per se, you form part of the larger body of the followership in the country. And as a result of that, it again becomes important for you to read so that you can be able to understand the issues that we are trying to put across in this book. The central theme of this book is leadership the biggest problem of Nigeria? Now, I want to hear from you. Is leadership the biggest problem in Nigeria? Can I hear somebody tell us? You would say no? Go ahead and substantiate your answer.
We are empowered as citizens to change things, and leadership is selected from the general citizens. So I don't think it's a leadership problem. It's a problem of the populace.
Okay.
The issue is with the populace, because it's out of the populace that leaders are selected. So if you're saying 10 leaders have been selected from the populace and all those 10 leaders are corrupt, or you have a problem with them, that shows you the decadence of the society. So it's not a leadership problem, it's a problem with the decadence of the society as a whole.
Okay. That's one perspective. Can we listen to another perspective? Thank you.
Thank you. At first I was going to disagree with her, but then she explained it. She expanded that, so I kind of understand what she's saying.
Okay.
But on another point of view, I definitely believe there is a problem with the leadership, because as I was speaking to my brother Ruby, I told him that Nigeria should really be, if not the richest country in the world, because all we need to do, is just dig the ground. We have too much resources. We have too much resources to be poor, to be where the country is. So. Definitely. So, I mean, from what I could see, it just looks like, the leaders are kind of just capitalizing that and just using that for their own gain, rather than trying to develop the country as a whole. And that's my perspective.
Good. Chichi, you want to add on?
Thank you. I've not read the book, but honestly, from the topic there, or rather the, what's it called? The name of the book.
The name of the book.
Yes, I can say I'm not disagreeing totally with Davida, but to a larger extent, from my observation and experience being in Nigeria, I think it is a leadership problem. The reason I said that is because there is, based on what Pastor Sunday has taught me and my knowledge now, if there is a proper structure and, of course, a process, okay, in terms of system in place that is suitable for that country, these things will not be happening. So the leaders need to put a proper structure in place which will now affect the way we, the citizens, you know, should I say, succumb to whatever that is in place. And that's, for me, that's a problem that they need to start solving so that they can now educate we, the citizens, to follow suit. Thank you.
Good. Ephraim, you want to make a comment? Okay. Can we have these lights off? These lights? Okay.
Okay.
Yes, Ephraim.
Okay. As I said yesterday, I'm not Nigerian. I don't know anything about Nigeria, only where it is, located in the globe. And I don't know the internal political situation and social and whatever, right? However, what I've seen from the book, this book that we're reading about Nigeria, and looking for, similarities. I'm coming from Mexico. Well, my country where I was born is Mexico, and putting in perspective as an analogy, I'm gonna say in Mexico we have a saying. It's like a joke, but it's something true. Mexicans say that God put all the riches in Mexico. You can find deserts, you can find a lot of agriculture, mountains, rivers, lakes, water, seafood, name it. It's a very, very rich country. However, the population in Mexico, 60% of it lives in poverty. Why is that? And when God was creating the world and putting Mexico there and put all this stuff, Peter told God, why you are putting so much in this country? Don't worry, said God. You will understand. And then he said, I am going to put here the Mexicans, right? So what it means for us, and it's like a joke, because the responsibility of our country is ours. It's not just the leadership. It's everybody's. If God gave us the earth to subdue it and, to make it fruitful, the responsibility is for everybody. And it's our responsibility as well to choose the proper leadership. If we don't have the right leadership, we have the power to do something. So sometimes, or I'm going to say most of the times, leadership, if we put it like who is governing, who is making the decisions, are not working or have no that vision for the nation, is a responsibility of the rest of the society to do something.
So in other words, you're agreeing with what Adiva first said.
I'm saying the other way, that leadership could be a problem now.
Yes.
And the responsibility of the society is to change it, to transform it. If they are not willing to do so, but the population is willing to do so, that will be probably the path to follow.
Thank you. So both the leaders in the nation have a role to play, and also the citizens have a role to what? To play. That's what seems to be coming out of from our discussion. Now, I'm not going to make a very detailed presentation about this book, but I'm just simply going to make highlights of what I've been able to pick reading this book. Now, when you read it, obviously you'll be able to form a clear picture about Nigeria. But suffice to note that there is no way we are going to change any of our countries in Africa unless we understand their past, unless we understand their history. Now, the way this book has been written is that a big part of it delves into the historical aspects of how Nigeria came to be, so that we are able to look kind of like backwards in order to move forward. That's the way this book has been structured. I've been really privileged because reading through this book, I begin to appreciate the history of this great nation, Nigeria. I mean, we've had several discussions as citizens of Africa whenever we meet, and the first issue when we are complaining about our countries and the state of governance is that we blame the leaders. We blame the leaders. There is no doubt about that. We blame the leaders, and there is no doubt the leaders have their share, and indeed they must take the responsibility because the buck should never go beyond them. So they must really take the responsibility. But as we go through this book, reading from how Nigeria existed, sometimes some people think that Nigeria only started when the British came to colonize us. No. On the contrary, as you read this book, you'll discover that Nigeria has a rich history spanning almost 1,000 years earlier. Very interesting. Now, in my country, there are kingdoms that we used to study about in my history when I was in my A level of West Africa. And we were studying about the Fulani Hausa kingdom, the Benin kingdom, and all these kingdoms. Now, it's very exciting to now refresh my memory as I read through these different kingdoms and how they made a contribution to the way Nigeria is today. I don't know who is helping us with the PowerPoint, Igor? Okay, can we go to the next? Now, this is what I've done. In reading this whole book, I have summarized it in this form, that this entire book, ideally, is saying that the problem of Nigeria is fourfold. It is fourfold. It has to do with the history of the country. It has to do with the leadership of the country. But it's also true that it deals with the institutions that have been developed along the way from 1960, or if you want, even earlier, before independence, up to the present. And then, of course, the kind of values that the citizens of this country have chosen to embrace. Ideally, that's what it is. You could make a whole thesis out of this, and this is what really the author here, Pastor Sunday, is trying to put across, that when you are talking about the leadership question of Nigeria, you have got to look at it from 4 perspectives, or from 4 lenses. You know, you have got to look at the history, or the historical aspect of the country. You have got to look at what the different leaders have done, and what the institutions in place, and of course, the national values. Now let's look at the history. Next slide. Now, my reading through this book, the conclusion you get is that history of any nation matters. The history of any nation matters. It matters in the short run, but it also matters in the long run. It matters in the short run, but it also matters in the long run. And as I thought through history, I was asking myself, what's the significance of history? Ideally, any of us, when we think about history, usually we will think about the 2 perspectives of history, that it's a reflection of a country's past. By and large, that's our understanding of history. It's a reflection of the country's past. But I wish to submit that in addition to that, history is also a reflection of the present state of the country, because every present very soon becomes a past. Not so? Every present very soon becomes a what? Becomes a past. But I dare add that also the future projection of a country can also be put into that perspective, because the actions that are being done now have a bearing on what is going to happen tomorrow. So if we want our history of tomorrow to be better, then we must be concerned about the actions that we are taking right now as a country. Any people that ignore their history, obviously they choose to forfeit their inheritance, because that's how powerful history is. Let's continue on. Next slide. The second pillar, which I don't want to belabor, because all of us, anyone in Africa, anyone in Nigeria will agree that there has been a problem of leadership in our countries. And that one cannot be overemphasized. But suffice to note that the role of every leader in any country is to provide the vision, paint a picture of where we would want our countries to go, but at the same time have the courage to act, provide the actions that are needed to move that nation forward. That's the whole essence of leadership. And that notwithstanding, like we've already noted, a responsible followership is key to effective leadership. You cannot talk about leadership without the followership. So the whole aspect of leader followership is a very critical aspect for us to appreciate in our nations. And more so in Nigeria as we look at this book. And that's what Pastor Sunday is trying to put across, that yes, the leaders have had a huge role, a huge impact to play on the nation. In fact, as I read this book, along the way, to be honest, I broke down and I said, God, this is unacceptable. That surely as a country, we can go through what we have witnessed in the space of about 56 years now. It's like every military leader was competing against the other to actually rule. And that wouldn't have been bad per se if we succeeded to have the leaders do what was right. But as you read through, you really get a feeling that, oh my God, this was unfortunate. But at the same time, you also see a ray of hope that there were also leaders in here. You know, there were leaders who literally had got it right. General Murtala Mohammed, becomes my hero in this book. You know, General Mohammed Murtala, and then, of course, General Buhari. I sent Pastor Sunday a message 3 days ago asking him, does General Buhari understand the Buhari of 1983? I pray he understands it. Because if he can outcompete the Buhari of 1983, Nigeria has a huge opportunity this time. Because he had done an excellent job. In only 2 years, 83, 85, Nigeria had a lot of hope. He had made a lot of strides in the right direction. I don't know, maybe because then he was a young man. I pray that he will master the same energy now to take the country forward. Next slide. Now, this book also emphasizes the fact that you cannot talk about nation building without talking about institutions. In fact, what great leaders do in any country is to build the institutions. And I like what Douglas North has defined the institutions to be. That institutions are the humanly devised constraints that shape human interaction. When you talk about any institution, you are talking about a constraint that has been deliberately instituted to make sure that the people are able to move. There is no freedom without limitation. You can never talk about freedom without limits, without boundaries. That's why even Adam, free as he was, he still had some limitations. He was given some boundaries within which to behave. Beyond that, he had trespassed. So, institutions are very important in taking the country forward. So, leaders come and go, but the fabrics of a free institutions remain unshaken. Hasn't Obama come? Hasn't he? Is going. But yet the institutions in place, they remain. They remain. And so every Nigerian, it's incumbent upon us to ensure that we invest our time, we invest our resources, we invest everything that we have on us to make sure that we build strong institutions. We can now no longer talk about the theory of the strong man, because Africa has been known for its strong men. That everything revolves around one person. But now we are realizing that we need leaders whose legacy is going to be to build or strengthen the existing institutions. Let's move on. Now, the last pillar that this book underscores is the whole issue of national values. National values are so critical to any nation. Any nation that would indeed be great must be established upon enduring national values that bind every individual in the corporate entity of the nation. That's what Ogeni says. That this is important. What kind of values do we have? When we talk about Nigeria, what comes to our mind? Anywhere across the world, when you talk about Nigeria or a Nigerian, what comes to our mind? Corruption. Is that what comes to our mind? That's what people think about it. People think about fraud. Now those are the kind of values that we are defined. Let's first pause here and go to the next slide. As I talk more about values. In 2012, I had an opportunity to go to Japan. And I remember as we were queuing in the line before the immigration counters, we had some of our colleagues from Nigeria. And indeed, as you are saying, the moment they realize that you are from Nigeria, they retain them to interrogate them further. As we are being led to go, these were two colleagues that we had traveled with in the plane. They were retained to be interrogated further. Now, why? Because the perception that has been created by and large is a negative what? A perception. But while I was in Japan, I just want to share briefly the kind of values I observed in this country, and I had to prepare a PowerPoint to teach my staff back home. I picked key 9 lessons that I learned in Japan. Let's continue on. One of them was that Japan as a country, they have a culture of discipline. They have a culture of discipline. I don't have the time. I would even have shared with you the historical aspects about Japan. The Japan today we see wasn't like this always. You know, it wasn't like this always. When you read about the Meiji, I think, dynasty, back around, I think, the 14th, 15th century, the Japanese had kind of the similar values that many of our African nations do have. But they purpose to change. we can embrace new values and take them on. And that's what Japan did. They sent a very strong team from Japan. They came to Europe, they went to America to benchmark, to find out why is it that Europe was better than Japan? Why is it that America was better than Japan? And they noted that these guys had a different value system than what Japan had. When they came back, they purposed to impose a new value system upon themselves. And over the years, one of them is a culture of discipline. As you all know, the Japanese have kind of adopted a military discipline in their individual lives. When you see them, when you are in there, that's what you observe. They respect orders and everything. Let's continue on. That's one value system I noted. The second one was the aspect of time management. In Japan, matter of fact, it's almost criminal to waste time. It's almost criminal. It was the first country I went in, and the following day, we got out of our hotel, we were waiting to move. I started seeing people running. Smart ladies, dressed in suits, and they are running. So I thought there was a problem. So I spoke to my Japanese colleague, and I was like, is there a problem? Something has happened somewhere? And he said, no. They are trying to catch up on time. They are running to catch up on time. I just could not believe my eyes. I just could not believe my eyes. People running, everybody is in a hurry. People are running, and you may think there is a problem, but they're just simply running to catch up with time. They move fast, they eat fast, everything they do is fast. Even when we're with them, for example, when the time for lunch is 1 hour, and we exceed it during the lecture time, then our facilitator will tell us, sorry colleagues, today the lunch will be for only 30 minutes because we went over by 30 minutes during the lecture. And we would actually eat for only 30 minutes. A culture of time management. When you are with the Japanese in meetings, as you are discussing and talking, they are typing the minutes. As soon as the meeting is over, they hand over the action points and everything. And I had not understood that until when I went to Japan, because even in Uganda, when we have the Japanese under JICA, Japanese International Cooperation Agents, sometimes when we meet, you're seeing them making notes and everything, and immediately they are giving you the minutes. You will get the minutes after 3 weeks or after 2 weeks, or you have got to keep begging and saying, where are the minutes? Let's go on. They have a high level of patriotism. Japan comes first. The individual comes second. A very high level of patriotism, and this is developed right from home at the infancy. It's amazing. Matter of fact, right now, if I do recall, they told me, for example, when a lady gives birth, I think she stays home for almost a year, just to make sure that she takes care of the child, and they develop the value systems in the child, So that's how serious the issue of patriotism is. I was surprised. I asked one of the colleagues in Japan, and I was like, how come that there is a high level of suicide? Sometimes I hear, you guys kill yourselves. And she told me that, you see, we don't believe in poor results. So sometimes, if you do something and you feel that the results are poor, they will choose to end their lives rather than face the embarrassment of having performed below expectation. I was shocked. Let's continue on. The other value system I noted is that they have a high level of integrity. They possess a culture of honesty, and stealing is foreign to them. The real Japanese, to be honest, stealing is a foreign word to them. In fact, it's now, in these recent years, because of foreigners that have gone in to Japan, that we now have challenges. But the real Japanese, stealing is foreign to them. While I was there, a colleague of mine who was a doctoral student there from Uganda shared with me a very interesting experience he himself underwent. He went to the bank, withdrew close to about $4,000, and in that rush of rushing, the money unfortunately dropped. A young man sees the money falling, comes, picks the money, follows him. This friend of mine is running to catch up with the train. The young man is also rushing. And when I'm talking about rushing, how many of us have been to Japan? Any of us? Oh. Okay, but at least in London, which you are more familiar, you see the crowds. You see the crowds. Now, because Japan has a very big population, just when you stand and you see the number of people on the street, my God, you really wonder. So the population is huge, the crowd. So this boy is running through this crowd trying to get hold of my colleague and say, please, this is your money. And he cannot get him. So my colleague runs, enters the train. This young man follows him and gets to him. And then he starts to make signs to him because he couldn't speak English, you know. So he tells him, you've lost your money. And my colleague is wondering, what's wrong with this young man? What is he saying? Until finally, he realizes that I think he's communicating something because he's showing him the money. So he touches himself, realizes that actually he had lost his money. So he gets back his whole $4,000, and as soon as the train reached the next station, this boy alighted. Just imagine that. Just imagine that. I mean, back in our African context, I mean, you would just say, well, the Lord has made out a miracle. That was a powerful miracle. I just found money. You testify in church. The Lord blinded somebody. Eagle, let's continue on. I would share countless stories of integrity. I was in Malaysia, and I read a story of a Singaporean. Now, this is a driver, cab driver. A couple from Thailand forgot close to $900,000, which was equivalent to 1.1 million Singapore dollars. Now, I think they were in a hurry. They somehow forgot their bag, which had the money, in this cab, and this driver drove off. Now, the driver reaches his destination, checks, and discovers there is a bag and there is money. He counts, it's 900,000 US dollars. 900,000 US dollars. Now, picture that amount of money. It's been forgotten by people whom you, someone just you gave a service because he's a cab driver. Do you know what this driver did? He got the whole of that money and took it to his company, because see, in Singapore, all these vehicles are registered, so each company. So he goes to his bosses and says, one of the customers, the clients I had, forgot his money in my car, and here it is. I read that story in Malaysia. It happened in Singapore, but I was in Malaysia. And so I check, and I'm seeing on the front, on the newspaper, Singaporean driver returns 900, close to $1 million US dollars. It was unbelievable. It took us almost an hour just chatting with my Ugandan colleagues and asking them, what would you have done? What would you have done? and you don't want to hear the interesting theories, the interesting theories. I mean, what would you have done? To be honest, really, just think about it. This is a customer, he's forgotten this money, and you're not sure you'll see him again. What would you have done? You'd be scared. Pastor Cole, what would you do? Would you say finally the wealth of the wicked? Would you get a scripture? What would you do? Samson. Finally, you say, I think now the Lord, this is a sign that the Lord has told me to stop working. He has already now blessed me beyond measure. He has brought me to my worthy place. A high level of accountability. Due diligence is exercised in everything. There are established procedures that are adhered to. Every worker is accounted for in terms of time and performance management. Now, we reached a level where we got annoyed. Every morning when we get out of the hotel, they count us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 20. As soon as we get to the conference room where we are going, they count us. As we are going for lunch, they again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they count us. Now again, when the sessions are over and we are getting back to our hotel room, again they 1, 2, 3, 4 and count us. So I was curious. So I again went back to the Japanese colleague and I was like, why do you count us like this? We are adults, Why are you counting us like that? He said, well, it's part of our culture. It's part of accountability. We must account for everyone. We must be sure everyone is there. In their lectures, for example, a lecture will not start if one person is missing. The professor will say, we are not starting until James is here. Where is he? So you have got to account for one another. Accountability is critical. Let's continue on. High level of respect. They respect everyone. It's in Japan where I realized the bosses bow down. Of course, that's their culture. They bow down to their subordinates just as the subordinates also bow down. Now that's a cultural value. They respect everybody, whether it's a young person or whether it's an elder. They respect everybody, and it's part of their culture. And when you get in there and you do not do that, automatically they will know you are a stranger. They will definitely know you're a stranger. Let's continue on. Very hardworking. Hard work is a cultural value that is embraced by everybody. The Japanese work for longer hours, and it's something that has been inculcated in all their social fabric, and that's what they do. Let's continue on. Next slide. It's over. Oh, okay. The other thing I noted is that the Japanese have highly developed human resource. They highly invest in raising quality resources. They believe in the principle of employee satisfaction first, then customer-client satisfaction. I mean, it is the staff first, the employee first. They believe in their staff so much. And they are highly trained. They are highly trained. In my profession, because I'm a customs officer, I mean, Japan, at the global level, we have what we call the World Customs Organization that brings together all the customs administrations across the world. But a lot of research that we do, even at the global level, is done in Japan. They have very elaborate laboratories where they will test for anything that is manufactured in the world and that is imported across countries. So when you talk about the tax rates in every country, you know where these tax rates come from? Some of them are established from their laboratories because they have got to look at the products, do research on them, and then after that they advise Brussels, where World Customs Organization is, to say now this should be the tariff classification of these commodities across the world. Let's continue on. System thinking. Pastor has been talking about systems. Oh my God. Get to Japan. Everything is a system. Everything is interwoven in a system. Even the way they eat is a system. You know, they have designed everything to function as a system. And that's a very key value system for them. Let's continue on. Oh, okay. So let's go back to the other slide. So, national values matter. National values are the bedrock of any country. If a country cannot define the values of its population, of its people, then that country cannot go so far. Now, I wanted to give you my experience in Japan, what I observed, to be able to underscore what actually Pastor Sunday is laboring in this particular book. He spends a lot of time trying to prove that the problem of Nigeria is not actually leadership, but it is poor, it's poor values. It's a poor value system that we have embraced. And if we can do away with the current value system that we have, take on a new value system, I can assure you nobody will see Nigeria in the world. Let's continue on. Now, what has happened? Okay, there is supposed to be another circle here. It's there, but because of the, okay, it's dark. Sorry, we used the dark color. Now, I have summarized this whole book into these three circles, what I'm calling Nigeria's leadership hedgehog. If you've read Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, he introduces the concept of the hedgehog, of how certain companies, he carried out a study about the Fortune 500 companies and why some countries leap from just being good to being great. And so he came up with the concept of a hedgehog. And the whole concept of a hedgehog basically is talking about having a deep understanding of the intersection of these three circles. Now, what I'm trying to argue here from my perspective is that for us to talk about the issue of leadership in Nigeria, we have got to consider all these three pillars, all these four pillars. Leadership as one of the pillars, history of the nation as the other pillar, and of course the national values as the other pillar. But the intersection of all these three is actually the institutions. My argument is that the institutions are the central aspect that the nation of Nigeria or any other nation really in Africa should labor to develop. That once we have these three, the leadership in place, having a clear understanding of our historical background, having defined the kind of value system that we would want ourselves to be known for, then all these should work towards developing the kind of institutions that we want in the country. And once that is done, then it leads us to what I'm calling, next slide, what I'm calling the leadership housing model. That you have a house, which is the country of Nigeria, you have the house, but the foundation of this house is actually the values. Because usually the foundation is not seen. But yet it is what makes that house stand. So to me, my argument is the nation of Nigeria should be able to identify the values for which it would want to take itself forward. And that would act as its foundation. But then the pillars that hold this roof together and hold this house together, one of those pillars is still having a historical understanding of where the country has come from. But also leadership being the other pillar, that these really hold the nation. But then these all together have the institutions as the roof. Because any house, at a distance, what do you see? You normally see its roof, not so? Any house anywhere far away, you will be able to see the roof. So, to me, the institutions is what people should be seeing. But yet these institutions, they have the leadership, they know their past, and they are guided by the values. I want to stop there. That's my whole summary of this book. And I encourage you to go and read this book and internalize it. And those who are in governance in Nigeria, if no matter at what kind of leadership level, whether it's at a state level, governor level, or the federal level, or even the lower level, however lower it might be, every leader needs to read this book and appreciate the 4 pillars that this nation needs. The pillar of history, the pillar of leadership, the pillar of the institutions, and then the pillar of the national values. Maybe to give us some hope, I was just looking at the current figures of Nigeria in terms of the economy. I don't know whether that slide is there or it stops here. Oh, yes, okay. Now, if you look at, I made a comparison between Nigeria and Norway. And for all intents and purposes, you cannot compare Norway and Nigeria because, to be honest, Nigeria is a giant. In every aspect, whether economy, whether population, whether land mass, in any way you want to think about it, Nigeria is a giant. But just to underscore that when a nation develops its value system, this goes a long way in even promoting the economic development of that country. When you look at the facts surrounding Norway, the GDP in terms of the purchasing power parity is $357 billion estimated. But if you look at Nigeria, I don't know, Igor, how we can keep changing the slides, the 2 slides. Got the next one and then we'll keep coming back. Just to show. Now, you imagine Norway is only $357 billion US dollars. But look at Nigeria. It's 1.094 trillion US dollars. Because currently Nigeria is the largest economy in Africa and I think the 29th economy in the whole world. That's how big this country is. But then, go back, look at the GDP per capita. That's the amount of money really that we would say is in the pockets of every Nigerian ordinarily. For Norway, it is 68,000 US dollars. But then for Nigeria, it is 6,000. So just look at that. The GDP is over 1 trillion, but then the per capita is $6,000. With Norway, it is $68,000. Now look at the gross national saving. Now Norway saves 37.6% of its GDP, whereas Nigeria saves 12.4% of its GDP. So you imagine if only this can even be increased to 30% of 1.094 trillion. My God, that's quite a lot of money that can be saved. Now, the unemployment rate in Norway is 4.4% as of the data for last year. But then for Nigeria, it is 23.9% of the population you can see how massive that is. Now let's look at the population below poverty. In Norway, no one lives below the poverty line. But then when you come to Nigeria, 70, as of 2010, now this is data of 2010, the population below the poverty line was 70%. With all this wealth that we are talking about. Now, the last bit that I checked on Norway, just go back to Norway. Norway has the world's largest sovereign wealth fund. The money that they make from oil that they have been saving over the years, Norway, the amount of money in terms of savings from oil is estimated to be 800 billion US dollars. 800 billion US dollars. So it doesn't matter whether they even stop making the oil, this money is able to take care of them for the next, I don't know how many years. So they have been saving money. Whereas Nigeria, which is also an oil producing company, anyone who has an idea of how much money is being saved in terms of the sovereign wealth fund from oil? You know? So, I just thought I would use this to simply underscore the fact that, truly speaking, Nigeria has more hope if only it can address those pillars that we are talking about. Redefine its value system, because then the value system will even force the government to save, force everybody else to save, and that will be better. Thank you so much. Yes, some questions. I don't know, isn't my time over? Oh, I still have time. Oh, thank you. So some comments? Comments? Yes.
From the beginning, from your presentation, what is your answer? Is leadership a problem, or what's going on with this?
What do you think from my presentation that I've made?
No, your answer.
My analysis, if you saw, the reason why I came up with the 4 pillars is that I was trying to make an argument that leadership actually is really not the problem of Nigeria. It's just one of the problems, but it's not the what? It's not the main problem. You have got to look at it from a holistic perspective. You have got to look at the history of the country, because sometimes we do forget that. Now, I did not have time to read some of the quotes from here, but one of the things that shocked me in this book is that recently in 2011, one of the colonialists who was part of the colonial administration in Nigeria made a confession shortly before he died, called Harold Smith. You know? Yes, you read it? That shocked me because I did not know these secrets. Do you know that? And that's just part of it. Do you know that Britain has kept secrets of how they colonized us and what they did in Africa for the last over 100 years? Thank God some of them are beginning to reveal what actually happened in the backyard when many of us didn't know this. If you read that, you begin to understand why Nigeria is the way it is now. You want to know? Then get the book and go and what? And then go and read. Read the book. I can assure you, if you read that, you're gonna get you get a heartache, literally. I mean, it started there. It is so painful. Now, one of the guys mentioned in here, we have him also in our history in Uganda. In Uganda, he was called Captain Frederick Lugard. I mean, he was an instrument of colonialism in Uganda. But the same fellow was also in Nigeria. And I think from Uganda, he was transferred to Nigeria and promoted. He was a captain. When he came to Nigeria, he was a major. Now, when you read this book and you see the chaos and then the kind of amalgamation that they did, you know, combining the North and the South, the Lagos Protectorate and the South, that, I mean, it's so painful. But all this is here. So you are able to appreciate. The Biafra War still also came from there. So you begin to understand a lot of things that are causing the country to be the way it is now. My prayer is that the political leaders begin to understand that the problem of Nigeria is not ethnic. You know, we shouldn't be really fighting each other. But you see, this is what the colonialists did to make sure we will keep fighting each other. We will begin to think that my neighbor is the problem. So, the problem is holistic. You have got to look at it from all those perspectives. Definitely, the leaders have had their big problem, and that one you cannot run away from it. But it's also not enough, because when you read this book and you appreciate that even when the right leaders came, for example, I asked Pastor Sunday, I mean, to be honest, I have been hearing about Chief Obafemi Awolowo, where I kept reading some of his quotes. It's now when I read this book, I asked Pastor Sunday that, you mean Africa had people, had a leader like this, and the whole country of Nigeria could not take advantage of this man to allow him at least finally go at the federal level and be a president of Nigeria? Maybe today the history would be different.
But the colonial didn't want it.
I know. They made sure they imprisoned him and then gave the leadership to someone else who wasn't ready. But it's what you begin to appreciate here. You know? Come again? No. Every leader who has ruled in Nigeria is here. Just read this book, because it's not recognized. He's in, but the history doesn't seem to judge him so. So I think you need to look at it and appreciate the whole history. But this really gives you it's a treatise really of the political history of Nigeria. You'll get everything here. Very interesting. General Gowan, all those leaders, when Sir Tafewa, was assassinated, the Major General who took over, Iyonsi? Yes. I mean, from him to Gowan to all the others, Mohammed Matala and all those across, all those generals, you'll get it here. Each of them and what they did. Any other comment? Yes. Oh, sorry.
I will consider you, and I consider myself sometimes, as an outsider looking into Nigeria. What, at this time, diaspora is in 50s, 60s, 70s right now, diasporas. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure they want to retire where they are. I'm not even sure if they understand what it means to retire there. Mm-hmm. What advice, or what would you say to diaspora about Nigeria that you think would encourage them to reconsider? I say reconsider because some have gone home, left everything, gone home, and they find themselves back again. So what could you tell them from what you've got?
Excellent question. reading this book, my honest appeal to every Nigerian in the diaspora is that get back home and let us build Nigeria. You see why? Because I truly believe that for every Nigerian who is in the diaspora, God allowed it for a reason. It's like God took you out of Nigeria, get scattered across all the countries in the world, learn the systems in there, get every knowledge you can get, and then after you have gotten that, get back home and help to rebuild the nation. Because if you look at the potential that is within the different Nigerians across the globe, some of the top ranking brains that we have in the diaspora are Nigerians. And they are promoting the development of Britain, the development of the US, the development of Germany, the development of all these countries, Netherlands and whatever. And our country still remains the way it is, because to be honest, you will not develop Nigeria unless you have the strong human resource. You remember what I was talking about Japan? They have a very strong, highly qualified human resource. Now, every Nigerian who is in the diaspora is a far superior human resource than the many that we have back home in Nigeria. And so we need your expertise to come back and rebuild Nigeria. And by extension, that's what I'm appealing to every other African. I mean, the Ugandans who are across, get back to Uganda and rebuild the country. I mean, part of the problem is that I think we've been so comfortable where we are for so long that we feel now it's no longer necessary to get back there. But the good news is the country right now is really clamoring to have you people back, because you are needed to help in the rebuilding of Nigeria. You are needed. Any other comment? Okay, so thank you so much, and let's read the book. Let's make sure that some of... Doctor, you wanted to say something?
No, I'll keep my comment.
I request that if we can get this book to our leaders, our political leaders back home, this will really help them. Because believe me, there are many parliamentarians who don't even know their history. But they are in there. I know it. You know? So let's get them this book so that they can read it, they can appreciate where they are coming from. I'm sure they will be better legislators. Thank you so much.